How's it going, everyone? Welcome to the weekly trading review for the week of 9/29. So this week I had 19 trades, 17 wins and 2 losses, total profits $652.60. On the swings, $660 of profits, 6 wins, 1 loss. On the day trades, $7.60 of profits, 10 wins and 0 losses. And then other, I had 2 trades, minus $12, 1 win and 1 loss. So, nice week for me this week, coming back off a losing week the prior, I think, 2 weeks. So, nice way to start the month and the first week of the quarter. Now, change I made this week, I'm taking a 2-week trial in Dave's trading room at Right Line Trading. So, checking it out. I've seen Dave trade in the one option chat a whole bunch, basically for like 3 to 4 years now. So, we all know that he's a fantastic trader. And in the room, he talks a lot more and gives his thoughts on the market and different stocks, and he's kind of responding to a lot of members. So he's pretty busy in the room, looking at trades, looking at picks, and so on. But want to see what I could learn from him. The Q3 review is going to be coming out pretty soon. I still gotta consolidate all the information and kind of see how I did this month. But basically, I'm still at the end of Q3. I'm kind of break even for the year, even though my win rate has been pretty good these last 2 months. So one of the main things we're trying to figure out is how do I get that next step where, I'm getting good trades. I maybe take 1 or 2 big losses, but how do I make sure that I end up on the profitable side of this equation? So hopefully, I think learning from Dave in a little bit more detail, I can start to solve that part of the equation. So in the, I'll call out some trades that I took that were from the room, and kind of just generally what I learned. Now I took some swings from the room, some swings not from the room. I had some swings that I'm in. Yeah, again, they're not from the room, and all the day trades that I took were kind of pretty much on my own. So let's start with the market this week before we get into the swing trades, the day trades, and then some of the open positions. So market, kind of a bullish continuation from last week after the drop. Found some support to close on Friday. Got a gap up on Monday, and then we had some follow through to a new all-time high on the 1st. And now the market is kind of starting to compress here on the 2nd and the 3rd, not really moving a whole lot. So we got kind of this pretty typical pattern right now where, look, we get a nice rally from this low for a couple of days. In this case, we get a longer rally. I think the FOMC kind of pushed us up a little bit more. But, we rally for a couple of days, 5, 6 days, maybe anywhere from like 4 to 6 days, something like that. We rally, and then we stall out for a couple of days, LPTE, and then we pull back, right? We stall, pull back, stall over here, right? And then we get the pullback. And then this pullback usually kind of hugs this 15 EMA that I've been seeing, which I always have comes cut off my charts, but kind of hugs it here. When it starts to find support, starts to slowly get above that, we can get into some long positions and swing them for the week. And then when the market makes a new all-time high, we don't want to take too many longs, maybe one, so we don't want to overload. Wait for the next pullback, load up, and then take some more longs. So that's pretty much been the pattern. Now let's get into the swings this week. Okay. So, first swing I'll talk about here is Joby. So I had taken Joby all the way back here on the 23rd. Stock had pulled back, tested this AVWAP a couple of times, and kind of earlier in the week I was like, yeah, it's scratching around. It might push up, it may not push up. I don't exactly know. It's also hitting some resistance, so I got in the stock at 320, and I wanted to get out at like 325, see if it could scratch if it starts to test this high again. So on this breakout here early in the day, I scratched it earlier in the day, and then we got some follow through later in the day on the breakout. So did end up panning out, but cut that guy a little short. Happens, but yeah, I mean, the move just kind of stalled out for a little bit here, and I think I made the right play based on the TA that if you look at this D1 chart here, right, big resistance line coming up over here where it could hit, it could reject down, or it could hit and it can break up. And I guess the current trend maybe favors the break up, but just took a small win on Joby there. Next trade that I had was Target. And I'm just going to filter my swings. All right. So Target. Had this nice breakdown here, pretty bearish D1 chart. Got in over here on the 23rd as the stock had pulled back kind of halfway in the candle. So I got in the 10-17-90 puts for $4.20. Stock just got to chop it around here. You're not really getting that follow through. And then I think on the I think it was the 29th, it was a little bullish. So this was sort of like a little bit sus here. We're starting to get back above this resistance, see if it can't drop down or not. And then it was looking pretty bearish here on the 30th, right? It had pushed down here, test this level again, pop back up, trying to make a new low. And then we got a big spike right here, maybe some news. I don't really know. Maybe a squeeze, but anyways, we got this big spike up over here. And then when we kind of saw this big spike, I was like, all right, look, it's spiking up here. You know, it's probably not super, I don't know how bearish or bullish this is, but it's sort of becoming technically invalid at this point where it's starting to break above the 15. It's starting to bounce up over here. And it's not really continuing this pattern anymore. So I took the loss on Target at 285 near the end of the day over here, somewhere around here, like the 89.50 level. And that was that. That was that. So trade after that I took was GLW. So this was one that I think Dave called out. We took it over here. And then I took the 10-17-75 calls for $6.75. Stock pulled back the EMA. So we took it like on the 23rd, right? You can see where we took it. Market had dropped. Stock had pushed up higher. So this is a nice strong stock. Pulled back and then pushed up higher after this pullback. So you could maybe have added to those calls if you wanted to. This is a really nice steady grinder. So there's probably going to give us some more options to get in and pull back on the stock. And pretty durable transition here. You can see that sometimes after these strong moves on volume, the stock will continue up. It'll be becoming more of this sort of grindy pattern where it goes up, down, up, down, up, down, but it still kind of hugs that 8 EMA a little bit tighter. So it pulled back because the market had pulled back. And then as the market surged up higher, this stock had surged up higher. And then I took gains on the first. I got out at 8.25. So it was $1.50 profit per contract there. About a 20% gain. And then it did continue up a little bit higher, but, ended up being a pretty nice place to take gains on GLW. All right, so let's go to CN. So CN, I had two trades. So I had a trade from last week that I took on the 26th as the stock was breaking out on volume. And if I look at the market on the 26th, I loved how CN held up really well and it was breaking to a new high. The market had popped up over here, got above the 8. It was at the AVWAP-Q, but I wasn't super worried about that. I figure that, oftentimes what happens with the AVWAPs is that we get a gap up and then a retest of it. So we get the market, as it moves higher, can kind of jump up overnight. So we got this jump up, pause for a second, and then I pushed all the way up higher. And then my target on Sienna. So I took the Let me call this out on Sienna here. I took the 1017, 145, 150 call debit spread for $1.85, and my target was $50. So I exited that spread at 280, or sorry, 275. So that was about a 45%, just about a 50% win on that out of the money call debit spread. Ended up paying off over here because it hit my target. Did have a little bit of follow through. Could have got maybe $3 if I really wanted to push it, but hit my target, so is what it is. And I actually entered it later in the day, so I entered it again, sort of as like a because this is actually when David taken in the room. So if you look at this chart here, about 149.50 ish is when I exited the trade. So sort of around here. As it approached this, it got filled, I think probably on this pop here, so as it was right on this 150 level. We popped up over here, came back, tested this level, started to find some support. So I got in on the stock kind of around here, and I had taken on Sienna the October 17th. What calls did I take on this? The October 17th 140 calls for $12.90. Stock gapped up, pulled back, and then pushed up higher the whole day. And then on the open on the 30th, I had an order out for $15. So I got into stock at $12.90, and then I got filled on the open at $15.10 as it just poked just a little bit above higher. So I got a $2.20 gain on that guy, which was a nice win. So yeah, I mean, Sienna, both of those combined was $400. So really nice profits on Sienna this week. Next trade I took was WDC. So this stock, absolute monster. I took it over here on the 29th, and on this stock, right, if you look at the chart here, had this big gap up on the 29th, and here's on the 29th. So SPY starting to rally. I know we have some tailwind in our favor. This stock gap up, spent the whole day compressing, held half the gains, and then started to poke above VWAP. So I took it right over here, and on WDC, I took the October 10th 113 calls for $5.95, and at an order just for the high of the day, pretty passive target. So that got filled on the open. I got filled at $7.20, so took $1.25 profit per contract. Surged up way higher, kind of stalled out a little bit. So, and then pulled back to test the bid and come back over here. So actually probably could have taken another overnight here if I really wanted to, although I felt this pullback was fairly decently strong. And then this stock just kind of surged up really strong pretty much for the whole day. I mean, this was a really strong day in the market on the first with this end of quarter, beginning of month, end of month rebalancing, it looks like. So really strong day. I mean, the walkway analysis says that holding it for 3 days would have become a 200% winner, which is crazy. But yeah, again on WDC, it's like if you can, it's really kind of hard to predict this sort of candle. I mean, this is a massive candle, right? This is a $14 candle, and it's really never made that kind of candle ever. Until I guess maybe tariff, right? That's like, look at this candle, low high. I mean, yeah, that's a $7 candle. I mean, that's a pretty big move in terms of percent gain. But yeah, I mean, this is a massive candle that it made on really big volume. So, can't grab them all, but took a nice one on WDC. Last one here was RGTI. So took this kind of on a compression break here. This was from the room. So obviously very strong stock, held up well, and it's sort of a quantum. I believe it's quantum, right? Yeah, quantum. So, it is a little bit more newsy. It can sort of ignore SPY a little bit more. A lot of volume and heavy price action that's driving this guy. I mean, this is a massive pop here. Stock's up over 100%. So we got this break out of compression, come back, the bounce off VWAP here, which was looking pretty nice. So it bounced off VWAP and took this long, took the October 17th calls, the 30 calls for $5.90. So kind of chopped around. The stock kind of chopped around here, and then I got filled at the high of the day here. I took it off at $6.90, so that was $100 on RGTI, about a 17% gain. Nice pop overnight that you could have maybe held on to as well if you would have liked to. But yeah, that was a nice win in RGTI there. All right, so those were the swings. So even though RGTI was closed intraday, I took it willing to swing the trade if I wanted to. So, that's what I did. But the rationale for not pushing it was that on the second, right, the market's made new all-time highs, a little bit more likely to pull back. So we're not really looking to push trades at this juncture. We're looking at, find good trades, take some day trades. If you have to overnight, that you have the option to. But yeah, just kind of take some good trades and, not press at this point, right? The time to press was earlier in the week, but now as we reach the top, we want to be a little more cautious, wait for this next turn, and then, come back down. Okay, so let's talk about the day trades now. Okay, so first day trade was CRWV. This was a crazy one. So I'd taken it long here on the 25th, taking it at 137. Fell down pretty hard to about 119, 120, testing this 100 SMA. And then we get a big pop up on news on the 30th. So on this pop up on news, I scratched the trade out at 137.01, and I take a 1 penny sort of scratch win on that guy early in the day. So that was CRWV. Bit of a choppy stock, but I mean, you have to be able to take big moves on this guy, right? It's like this stock can move up. Look, from this high 138 to this low. I mean, that's a $20 move in a day. So I mean, it's just a massive. I mean, the ATR of this guy is what, almost $10 here on 130. So that's an 8% ATR, right? That's a massive, massive mover here. So, but it was still validly bullish. If it broke through the 100 here, I'd probably have to take the loss on this guy. So that was the first trade that I had closed. Next day trade I had taken was on Hood. So Hood had this really nice pop here on the 29th. Let's look at this chart. And yeah, here's the pop here. And on Hood, now this is kind of an important note that I've noticed, is that sometimes when we get these really strong moves up higher on volume, and when they pull back, they kind of make this like grinding price action for the rest of the day. And as long as the market isn't like totally falling apart, we should get some follow through. So if I go back to the market here on the 29th, right? I mean, here is, the market, look, it's moving lower, right? So it's a little bit bearish, but it's not like it's like, you can see pretty choppy, pretty weak, not really making a lot of moves. So this is just sort of holding Hood back here. And Hood is just, because it has so much volume, it can pretty much just ignore the market and slowly grind up. So I took Hood, let me see over here. I took it at 131.60, the 1150 candle. So yeah, I took it like kind of right here, right as it got to the halfway point of this red candle. And, I was targeting the high of the day somewhere here, 132.60. So took it over here, and then I took a dollar pop up over here, I think on the 25th, or the 25th, on 12.25. So about an hour later, it took some gains. And you can see it's kind of compressing here, and then it popped again. So you could maybe take another entry here, ride this guy out, and you can probably close it. Close it to the 8 EMA here if you wanted to. Another entry over here actually as it dips back here and then surges up to a new high, gets a little overextended. You can take some gains. And it still kept on going higher. And it's kind of tough because this stock, as it popped up, it kind of got fairly overextended here. So it is hard to chase, and you could probably feel some FOMO. But that's kind of one thing I learned from David's room here. He's like, hey, you can take the trade, but, sometimes it's going to go higher. A lot of times it's going to pull back. So, you can't that FOMO is going to kill you if you keep wishing that you had gotten in on the trade. You're better off just take some gains, right? I got some gains on this move, and see if it sets up later. And if not, then there's other opportunities. So I don't need to capture this giant move to make some money. The process is going to be a lot more important. But speaking of hood on some future moves, right? I think as I got up above VWAP over here, there was a nice day trade. You'd see it pulls back, tests this bid. Kind of hard to trade this sort of day. It's kind of choppy. Maybe as it pops above the high, you could take that as a quick day trade. I like it a lot more here, I think, right? Or even as it starts to break above this high of the day. Like right over here is when I would take hood on the third, and you could probably push that up a little bit higher. Yeah, but if it's not really moving, then I'd probably take some small gains at that point because it's kind of dead. So that's probably what you could do, and it held up pretty well considering the market had sold off a good amount there. So maybe as a lotto, it could work. So that was hood. That was the first real day trade of the week. CRWV, I was back in this guy. I think also on the 30th. So on this pop here. So let's go back to this guy. So interesting one here. Stock had came back, pushed back, and then it sort of poked above VWAP on this candle on the 30th. Not like super strong, but I did bid here at 139.45. So I bid kind of just above VWAP at this level. And I was like, all right, I mean, it can probably pop up, and I can probably take a nice $1.50. So if I could take $1.50, I'd be pretty happy with this. Stalled here for a little bit, and the longer it stalled, I was like, this could totally just be a VWAP rejection. So I had a pretty tight leash, and I scratched out of the trade again for a 1 cent win at 139.46. I think on this candle here on 12.45. Yeah. So on the close of this candle is actually on this 12.40 candle, I had scratched out of the trade. Stock did pull back, and look, it did have a chance to come back up and hit my price. You can see that it's testing this low, and then it popped back up over here, this high of 140.65. So could have taken some gains on that pop. But yeah, I mean, sort of, kind of hard to say, and it's like that 140 level looks like it's providing some resistance on the stock. So that's going to be a line in the sand, and I wonder if this high here, this high 141, you can see also providing some resistance on this guy. So another scratch on that guy. But on the 30th, I did take a short on GoDaddy. So this has a really nice breakdown here. Broke through the 8 EMA. Or compression break off the 8, not too overextended, broke through some of this support over here and had some room to support kind of around here. So you can call it, it looks like it tested this low at 132. A little bit of support here as well at 134.30. So GoDaddy, pretty nice short. And this was a pretty textbook play on the 30th. So 30th rate market is just super dead, really choppy, just not doing anything before we get that end of day surge higher. But it's just flat, and this compressing. This purple line is readjusted for the latest AVWAP Q, but this AVWAP Q was pretty much right here. So just testing until finally we got a lift off that AVWAP Q. So big move down here on good volume, bounced over here, and then when this stock started to break down through the 8, nice long red candle, I started to get in on this. I found the stock right here, and as soon as I saw it, I was like, this is a good trade. So I got in here. I got in one. Let me check my stock or my chart because my journal's a little bit off here. Yes, 136.59 is when I got in on the stock, and I was just looking for a 50-cent gain. I got a 51-cent gain at 136.08 on this move lower here. Just targeting something to the low of the day. Choppy day, can't really get too aggressive, so I'm not looking for a break of the low of the day, maybe just a test as we approach the low of the day and to take some gains. So I got it hit in about 10 minutes, produced pretty quickly, and that was that. So that was a nice little win on GoDaddy. Next day on the 1st, been a pretty nice day. Took STX here, and I actually got on the rare side of a massive move, which is pretty wild. But this stock, so I saw STX early in the day, right? And let's look at the SPY context. And I'm going to spend a little more time on this guy because this is something, it's sort of a tricky trade to really capitalize a lot on. So STX, obviously very strong D1 chart. So market a gap down, I think maybe on some shutdown news, right? So we get a pop up over here, red candle, double bottom, and we start to eat away at this pop up. So 1025 is we started making a new high of the day. We have a benign bearish cycle. We have some movement to the gap. So this is looking pretty good. Now I see STX, massive steady green candles over here. So I get long kind of right over here on this 1020 candle. I get long at 243 because I see this pattern, right? And I'm like, okay, this pattern is like 100% sure it's going to keep going higher. This is the best pattern you could possibly get on a day trade, right? Heavy volume, rising volume, consistent price action. Gets a little overextended, but it's something you can lean on. And I was like, yeah, I know I can probably take like $4 on this thing, but if this ends up being a gap down bullish trend day, I can really stick with this guy, and my best chance is to get out at the end of the day. So this stock pushed up a little bit higher. We got up to about honestly 274. So I had $4 in this early, and I'm like, all right, it's a little overextended. I could take profits here, but this is a good one to stick with. So stuck with the trade, and then we got this pullback to the 8 EMA, and now I'm just kind of watching it, right? And I want to see this key bar at 145 get eaten up pretty quickly. So we start to push up higher, we start to compress down. We're not really doing anything, and I'm like, we haven't really eaten away at this key bar here, so we might be in for a deeper pullback. And at this juncture, I'm like, all right, well, look, it could go up higher, it could pull back to VWAP. So if it goes up higher, that's fine. But I have some pretty decent profits at this point. I got $2.50 profit, so why don't I just grab that, and I can always get back in if I want to. So stock, it could pull back to VWAP and then set up later, or it could pull back and make a higher low, and I would take smaller profits, or it could surge up higher. So the trade-off I'm making here is I could take the more smaller but consistent win at this juncture, or I could maybe play a slightly lower win rate strategy where sometimes I lose a little bit more, sometimes I make really big, or sometimes I lose really big. So there's sort of higher variance in this kind of trade. SPY was also, you can see, it filled in the gap, and it had resistance from this, I believe, this prior high, and also approaching the all-time high. So it was near some of that resistance there. So took gains at 245.50, and then obviously we got the surge. Now the other thing I want to talk about too is, if you remember the Hood chart, right? I'm gonna pull that up before we go back to this. So Hood had a pretty similar kind of setup on the D1 and the M5, but you can see obviously very strong D1 chart, and you can see how, right, we got a whole bunch of steady green candles on good buying, and then this transformed, right, this strong move transformed into this kind of bullish channel at the end of the day that had some follow through the next day. So if I go back now to STX, right, when I saw that pattern on STX, I was like, okay, it's going to do the same thing, right? It's going to go into this, and it's going to transform into a bullish channel. So I saw that, and I'm like, oh man, it's not really racing this. So then I doubted that game plan. Then obviously it ended up, kind of pushing up higher for the rest of the day. And, I think this is one where you hold pretty much all the way, and then you take profits on the open because this type of move is going to have some follow through. You're very likely to not just have the top over here. So it's one of those things where I kind of use my current hit and run approach, which did well. I mean, this was my biggest day trade winner this week. So I'm not, to get this wrong and make a nice win is still a great win. And it's not even that I got it wrong, but it's sort of, here's the rare instance where you can stick with it. But, 80 to 90% of the time, you can't really stick with it. There are just rare instances where you can't do that. And also, again, I mean, this stock made a massive move just like WDC. One of the biggest candles on the D1 chart probably since, probably even bigger than at $13 here. Yeah, it's a pretty big one. $26. So, I mean, pretty massive gain, percent gain wise. So, I mean, it's very rare that you're going to capture this type of massive meaty move, but the ingredients for that were gap down, market is strong, small gap down, strong stock, and then just rallies for the whole day. So that was STX. I think maybe the one thing I would change in the future is I could probably do something like if I were to, when I size up for my day trades in the future, probably take like some calls on this or something. That we have some leeway to hold on a pretty nice move, and I can kind of stick with it and hold overnight. So, yeah, that was STX. So nice win on that guy. Same day here, I took Meta as a short. So it had gapped down, broken through the SMA, and I took it at the same time the market sort of was at resistance right here. Looking for a very quick move on Meta, like a $1.50 move. And I took Meta right around here, right? 1044 on this candle. So I got in at 714.05. Was kind of chopping around, and then over here just missed my target. So I got in at 1704, and I had an order out at 712.65. So that would be a $1.50 profit. Got 712.70, just missed it, and then popped back up. So I was like, all right, I'm just gonna try to scratch out of this trade now. Stock poof all the way back to the high of the day. Came back to VWAP, came back again to the high of the day, and then rejected. So I'm just holding the stock here because I'm like, it's still pretty weak, and I still got the 100 SMA over here, so I can lean on that. And, the market likely have some profit taking at the end of the day, so as long as Meta holds firm, I can probably get out at the end of the day. So on this double top here, I added to the position at 719. What did I add at? Added at 719.60, and my average was 716.83, which put me right above VWAP. And then an order out at 716.82 for a 1 cent scratch. Why? Well, market was obviously very strong. Meta was doing really well, but I'm not exactly trying to hold this short overnight. So if I can get out for a scratch, then I'll take that. But if not, then I'll probably have to hold for a day or two and then, try to scratch out of the trade. So it's coming down, and then I think I eventually get the fill. Yeah, end of day here. I think at 354. Yep. So on the close of this candle, I finally get my fill as it comes back and closes at VWAP. And I scratch out of the trade for 1 cent per share profit. Or sorry, I actually got filled. At 1760. Some crazy end of day fills. So I ended up taking like a 5 cent gain overall on this, which I'll take. I don't mind. Okay, MDB. So not exactly a textbook short here, but I took it as a short on the second. Now market on the second was kind of bearish, and then kind of pushing up higher here. MDB, you can see he had it gapped up, and then it was kind of just grinding down lower on okay volume, pretty decent volume. Close to some resistance here, so had some room to the high of the day, as well as the gap. So there's some stuff I could work with here on MDB, and also if I put the prior day VWAP, was also here. So when the stock broke through the low of the day and into the gap, I took the trade, and I got in at 626.66, which was not the best fill, I will say. Should have gotten probably closer to like 326.66. I should have probably got it at 327. I think was a better fill. But just looking for $1 in this guy, I took day trade short 2 shares, and then I was just kind of chopping around here, not really doing anything for some time. And you can see where I took it at 150. Right, market is at VWAP, still pushing a little bit higher, but not super strong. And then we get this bearish cross here around 240. So that's kind of where we get, 230, 240. That's sort of where we sold off here. But then we get another pop back up to test this gap. So didn't have a ton of conviction in this trade. I wanted to see some quicker follow through. And when I didn't get it, I didn't like that, so ended up scratching out of the trade at so the overall trade I entered in one was actually 326.58, and then I got out at 326.57. So yeah, scratch that guy. And it's just one of those trades where it's like, if I look at this chart, I'm not really trying to risk this move, right? It's not a D1 chart I can lean on versus something like Meta, where it's like, okay, I mean, this is a strong move on volume. I mean, it's probably going to make some sort of test. A little overextended, but I feel a little bit more comfortable leaning on this D1 chart than something like MDB. So that's why I was more cautious on that stock. All right. Next one on the second, I took IONQ. So again, very strong stock. Pull back to the 15. Kind of found some support over here halfway of this move, and then started to rally here on the second. So what I liked about this stock was that gapped up and spent the entire day compressing. And it was also compressing, I believe, at this all-time high AVWAP, which I'm going to pull up on this chart here, which it should come up here. So you can see that here's this all-time high AVWAP, and it was just at this level the entire day, and then it broke above that intraday. So if I let's see if I can draw this line here. Yeah. So here's what I was seeing, where stock had broken above this, kind of compressed, or strong move up, tested this kind of in this VWAP pinch, popped up, and then we got a couple of tails over here. So when I saw this, that's when I took the trade. So that's sort of the context that I'm seeing on the M5. So here's the same chart. Pushed up over here, so I took it at, what did I take it at? 68.70, looking for 50 cents on an end-of-day move. Pushed up, pulled back, and then popped up over here. And I was willing to hold this overnight as well. So I got filled on this last candle here at 69.20. So 68.70 to 69.20, took 50 cents per share and had 2 shares, so $1 overall. And that was a nice little end-of-day win on IONQ. So that was a good one. Last day on Friday, took 2 day trades. Friday was a bit of a bearish reversal day, and CEG probably the poster child of a bearish reversal here. Strong stock had a big breakout on the D1. Pulled back to VWAP. We got this green bar, red bar, green bar, and we start to break above this level here. So when I saw that, I was long at 373 and just looking for maybe $1 to $2. So when I got this push up here, got some tiny body candles at 1230. And you can see the market at 1230 sort of stalling over here. We got a bearish one, a P cross. So decided to take some gains at $1. So hit the $1 and took the win on CEG. And, again, this is the benefit of when you are taking more hit and run trades. You miss out on big winners, but you also miss out on big losers. So, I would have been $14, $14 of heat on that stock. Other trade I took also very quick was IREN. So this had a big pop up out of compression here. Really nice daily chart. Choppy as well, but big pop up here on volume. Pull back to the 8 and the 15, started to find some support. And then when we started to get through this candle here, I figured, all right, at 12.15, I mean, this stock is probably at least going to test the high of the day. So got in over here at 51.28, and I was targeting a 51.78, which was just kind of around the high of the day. So was waiting, and I got filled on this candle right over here, and that's a 50-cent gain per share, or took 2 shares, so $1 overall. So nice trades to end this week. A lot of nice dollar winners, and I had a couple. I only had one trade, I'd say, in Meta, where I had to kind of pull a rabbit out of the hat and average down and scratch out at VWAP. So that helped out. But yeah, so I had sort of 4 scratch wins, and then 6 for sort of normal size wins. But yeah, those are the day trades this week, and let's look at the open positions. So I'm going to start with the ones I already have, which was Bull. Let's get this guy out of the way. So Bull had a pop-up last week to this high minus trend line. Had pulled back, so I'd taken profits on Bull on my short calls, which were the... Oh boy. What is this? So yes. So last week I had the October 3rd 17 calls for 33 cents credit. I closed those out on October 1st at 7 cents. So I took 26 cents profit on that one, on that short call. And then I shorted the 17 calls again next week at 45 cents. So if you look at 10-1, right, it was kind of at the 50 SMA. And I'm leaning on this downward sloping trend line and sort of this stock to kind of do nothing here. Now, it has got a nice surge of volume, so it could pop up. But I chose 17 very specifically because if you look at this daily chart, we have resistance at 16, we have resistance at 17, and we have this high minus trend line. So if it can make that $3 surge in a week, I'll just take it off. And if it goes absolutely insane, right, I had the $16 calls, so I still profit on the entire trade because my short calls is above my my long calls here. If my short calls was below my long calls, then I would have the chance to actually take a loss on that position, but it is not. So I can get away with that. And I've actually had to do that probably a couple of times here, right? At 10:25, it's like the 1450 calls, the 1550 calls where they're above my I do have the 10 calls, my bad, but in terms of the position, right, I entered at around $16. So that's what I'm saying in terms of making money or not making money. Once it gets past here, we get past that $16 mark, right, I'm going to be in profit, probably a little bit higher now because I bled off some premium at 70 cents, about 70 cents a premium. But yeah, so that's Bull. But that's I'm getting a really nice credit on this. It's almost a suspiciously nice amount of credit, so I need to make sure that I'm not missing anything. But I don't know if that was just jacked up from the news or jacked up from the high movement that it had made. But in any case, 45 cents of credit is really, really nice. Yeah, that's how much of that? That's probably like 7% of the total position. So I'm really going to try to milk out as much of that credit as I can before shorting it again. But total premium collected is $1.46, and nice. That is 22% of the original position has been covered, which is great. Okay. Other swing that I'm in, the CRWV put credit spread. So this was, I think, taken by Dave. So this is technically a right line trade room, but had popped up, and this is just sort of compressing. We are in the 1110, the 110 105 PCS, and got in at about 110, and we have an order to buy back at 25 cents, which will probably get hit sometime this week. So we can close that out for a pretty nice profit. Yes. That is it. Other trades I taken NVIDIA. So as it broke above this high on the 30th, I took shares, 15 shares at 186.50. So on this move here, what I was looking for was follow through. We got this nice move, long compression, break out of that compression. We're going to enter a seasonally bullish time, and we have about 7 weeks until earnings. So I plan to ride this trade until earnings and probably take some gains around 200 is my plan. Now it's going to probably move up. You can see 190 hit some resistance. It's going to move up and chop around. But my plan is to get in this trade. I have a starter position and add when the market pulls back. And if NVIDIA shows relative strength, I'm going to add to the position on those dips and hopefully kind of gets less overextended from the 8 EMA. You can see that it does this kind of chops around here, pushes up higher. So as it gets less overextended, then I'll get in the position and add to it. I don't want to add up here because it's giving me the follow through, but I know it's going to dip, so I can add at a better price. Yeah, and I probably plan to size this up to, my guess is maybe 100 shares is my plan to size up on NVIDIA. So I have about I don't know, depending on how much I add, probably anywhere from like 4 to 6 more ads in this as I scale into this over the next, 2 months or so. So that is Nvidia. The other credit spread that I'm in is Tesla. So got filled on this guy. I missed the fill on this on the 30th. I was a little greedy. I was trying to get in at like 110 and I missed it at like 105. So popped up over here. And then I think David taking partial profits, but pull back here on this durability orders, and I got filled kind of around here at 433. This stock tested the 15 and started to bounce off through some of this support. So I have the 1017, 400, 395 PCS. Still feeling pretty good about that. There's some volume coming in here. As long as the more we chop around here and this premium bleeds, then that spread's going to be in pretty good shape. Next premium selling strategy I took was on IREN. So took it on here, and I sold the 35 puts for a $1.75 credit. And the rationale for this trade was, so first, right, I want to own the stock at the breakout. So if I do 35 minus $1.75, that gets me at 33.25, which is just about this breakout candle. Now, if I were to go back in time and I could say, hey, man, would be pretty nice to get in on here, and then I could ride this guy up all the way to 50. Would be pretty good. So sold those puts here. Those puts are trading pretty small now. They're like at 29 cents. So I have an order out for 15 cents, which is going to be a 90% gain if that gets filled, which it will most likely get filled sometime next week as this spread kind of dries up. And also if I don't get filled, then that's a 10% return on the margin I put up, which is 50% of the strike price, which is $17.50 on Reg T. So that's a nice, pretty 10% gain in a couple weeks on that position, which is really nice. Other out of the money short put I sold was on IONQ, and I sold it right here on the 29th. I sold the 56 puts. Let me find this guy. IONQ. Yes, I sold the 1017 56 puts for $2.38. So again, if I get filled on that, that puts me somewhere. My net price is at 53.62, which is kind of in this upper third of this breakout candle. I have the top of this breakout candle, the EMAs, and a VWAP E to lean on, as well as this high from, where the hell is this high here? Yes, this high right here from Jan 7th, right? So I have all that kind of support to lean on this trade. And if I don't get the fill, then I'm getting an 8.5% return on Reg T margin. So pretty good here. I also have a lot of high volume OI at $55, so that's also some support. And that's trading pretty well now. I believe that's probably tracing closer to like 79 cents, 80 cents, something like that. And again, on that one, I also have an order to buy it back at like 23 cents, so another 90% gain. So that'll happen, yeah, probably in the next couple, probably this week. I'll probably get that fill and take some nice profits on that trade. Other one I took, this is from the room. This was a Macy's weekly at the money, and it was actually, I felt pretty validated because someone was talking about weekly at the monies in the one option chat, and I don't know what stock they were talking about, but I was like, yeah, the stock you really want is Macy's. This is the picture perfect one because we got the gap up on earnings, we got the story changing candle here, bullish chart, and then it's been sort of grinding up on its own volition with this soft bullish channel. So on Macy's, we had taken the, where was this? So we had taken the 11/21 17 puts for 59 cents. And then we sold the October 10th 18 puts for 31 cents. And I took 5 contracts on this overall. Now, the total risk on this trade is the difference between those two, which is $1, plus the debit you paid, which was 28 cents. And I should probably put that up over here. 28 cents total debit. So that's your total risk on the trade per week. And yeah, and on the scenarios, I mean, pretty much 3 scenarios here. One is it continues this pattern, which is the best case, and we can just keep selling at the money puts on Macy's. The second scenario is that the stock gets really bullish and breaks to the upside. In that case, we just pretty much close out the entire spread for a small win, like 5 to 10%. And then the final case is that the stock breaks down to the upside, in which case we can close the short puts and we can ride those long puts. And you can see we have support here at $16 here, as well as support here at around the $15 level. And we have this trend line support. So if it would have to break through a couple of these for it to get really bearish. And if it gets like a mildly bearish, but not super bearish, I mean, you can always take the loss in the puts and then stay in the position and then short some other puts. So this is one where, you know, I'm taking this trade, and I've taken some weekly at the monies before. So like I'm pretty familiar with how to, with the concept and generally how to manage the trade, but I know it's a good strategy and I want to get better at it. So I'm going to be studying. This would be one where I'm going to be kind of following and studying a lot more closely to see, you know, how he manages the wiggles and jiggles in this week, right? Because I saw the $18 puts and we're closing at, you know, 17 something. Is it worth, you know, taking it off? I mean, you take it off, take the loss, right? Like, how do you kind of manage it week to week? So that's what I'll be watching for. I think we covered all of these, and the last one I took, again from the room, was Toll, TOL. So really nice setup on Toll. Volume is okay, but you can see that it broke through all the EMAs through this compression, high minus trend line break, AVWAP break, and if I put up the daily chart on Toll, yep, also broke through that all-time high AVWAP and some of this high volume resistance coming up over here. So, you know, pretty nice setup, and has some room to about 146, I would say. Let me put that up over here. Yep, so 146 has some room, which is about a 1 ATR move away. So Toll's looking pretty good. I took the October 17th 140 call for $5.50 ticket contract. So that's it. That's all the positions that I'm in. Be on the lookout for the Q3 video probably sometime next week. This weekend's a little busy for me, but as I kind of compile my thoughts and kind of finish up how my results and all the stuff I did, take a look at, you know, usual stuff, right? What I did well, what I could improve on, and, you know, how can I kind of win for the rest of the year, and what should I focus on for Q4. So that's pretty much the name of the game for that weekly trade review. So be on the lookout for that. Thanks for watching, everyone, and I will catch you all in the video next week.